All right. Well, we're here on the podcast and we are with Eric Richards, and he is another veteran. As you know, I'm trying to talk to all the veterans that are in our Sub 2 group. That's an organization that we'll talk a little bit about later, too. But the whole idea is that, I'm involved heavily in helping veterans in foreclosure. So I wanted to talk to as many people that are veterans in our community that are actually helping lots of people out there, maybe find out a little bit about their veteran background and how they got into real estate. And if you're a veteran and you're in trouble with a foreclosure or something like that, you can always contact me. But if you're not, that's great. But if you are having some financial difficulties and thinking about getting into a career field like real estate, well, then that's why I want to have veterans on so that I can talk to them and maybe they can give you a little inspiration. So if you have any questions on that, you can always reach out to me as well. So with that, Eric Richards, thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Sean. I appreciate the time, buddy.
All right. So tell me, you're a veteran. What was your service? What'd you do?
I was in the Army, joined right after high school, 2004. I was a truck driver, heavy equipment operator. 88 Mike was my official job title, I guess, in the
Yeah,
military. So it was very exciting.
very cool. So you were in just how many years?
I was in actually less than 2 years. I actually got injured and discharged
Mm.
due to injury. But
Oh, well, sorry to hear that, but it kind of led you down the path you're on now.
uh,
So when
yeah,
did you get really when did you get interested in real estate?
last year actually. I got out of the military and bounced from job to job until I eventually joined a construction union. I was in the union for 17 years. Um, had a pretty successful career in the union until I got remarried and had some kids that I took over the payments on. I substituted a couple kids, and
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
yeah, and the last job I was on, I was gone for basically 2 years straight. I got to
Mm.
see my wife and kids for approximately 3 hours a month. And when I finished that job, April of the last year, I realized that that lifestyle of going to big jobs and traveling all across the country in order to work and make the money that I was making was not conducive with having a family like I was having. So I needed to find something that would supplement the income that I had, something that doesn't take a college degree, and something that I can start out with little to no experience and kind of learn on the job in order to develop the income that I need as far as my family goes. And real estate kind of fit every one of those parameters. So
Yeah, you had that background in construction. So you were in the real estate industry, not necessarily on the buying, selling end of it, but you were definitely in the industry.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So was there something that you saw while you were doing the construction that led you to think, hey, maybe I should check out the buying end of it?
No, not really. Most of the construction I ended up doing, I did some residential, but predominantly was commercial and industrial on the larger jobs. The little bit of residential I did was typically in the summer months when it was a little bit slower, and I went and helped build a couple houses that summer just to kind of keep things going until the big jobs started back up again. But no, I never ever thought about real estate and that being a reality for me, because I always thought you had to go get licensed and you had to have a degree in order to get qualified to be a real estate license or a broker, and the time and everything it would take to get into that. I never ever thought about being an investor and what that would look like, but it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I used to think, you either needed a lot of money or you needed to have a lot of experience, right?
Yeah,
So then I heard that, hey, you can use other people's money. It's like, okay, fine, but I still don't have the experience. And this was when I was really young before I got into real estate or anything like that. But, what I learned was that, yes, you can borrow other people's money. You can use other people's money for your deals. You can also borrow other people's experience. That's one of the reasons why I joined the Sub2 community, is because we have so many community members there that if you think, I need to do something in Houston, I need to do something in Florida or whatever, there's somebody there that I can borrow their experience. I can joint venture with them, essentially. And that's what I call using other people's experience, just like we would use other people's money. So it's a pretty cool concept. So a year ago-ish, you weren't even investing in real estate. But what is it? And you said, it wasn't exactly one of those, you woke up one morning and said, I'm going to be an investor. So what led you down this path to where you're at now?
Sheer luck, I would say. So I finished that job in April. I took my family on vacation because I hadn't really seen them in 2 years. I thought, hey, we should probably go on vacation. So went to Myrtle Beach. My son, who's the youngest, was 5 at the time. The last night we were at the beach, crawled up on my lap and said, when we get back, are you going back out to work? And I said, yeah, buddy. That's how I make money. And, we just moved to a new area closer to my in-laws. My father-in-law was having health issues and my wife wanted to be closer to help out. I said, we just moved to the new area and we're looking for a house, and it takes money to buy houses. Little did I know.
Somebody's money.
Yeah. I said, it takes money to buy houses, and I'll make more money than what mommy does. So, I need to get back out to work so that way we can get a house. So that way you guys can have a nice place to live. And he just kind of started crying and whimpering and said, I really wish you could just stay home because I miss you. And that was it.
That's tough.
I was done at that point. The whole way driving back the next day, I told my wife, I said, I'm done. I'm not going back up on the road. I said, if there's a local job or something, I'll do it. But I've got to find something else that fits what we need for right now. The kids are too young. They need to have me around. So I got back the next day and I called my brother, who had recently moved to Florida, and his son just graduated high school, moved to Alabama to go to school down there. He was going to a diesel mechanic school down there. And he had a 30-day window before he needed to start school. So he started watching YouTube videos about wholesaling, and my nephew actually started wholesaling houses while he was waiting to start college. And he made $10,000 on his first deal, right? So my brother's like, you should definitely look at this wholesaling thing that Zach's doing. He just made $10,000 and never had to put a dime in it. Like, if you did this full time, you'd make crazy money. And I was like, well, yeah. So I started looking into wholesaling, watching YouTube videos, almost joined astro flipping with Jamil because I was kind of leaning toward that. But it's just something didn't really feel right about it. Like, it wasn't something that I knew that I was going to be content with doing for the next 20 years. It just seemed like if you're only wholesaling, you're always chasing a deal. You're always chasing money. You're not building anything to be lasting. You're always trying to get the next dollar amount. You know what I mean?
Yes. Wholesaling can be a very, very lucrative job, but it's still a job.
It's still a job.
Oh, essentially. Yep.
So because I was looking up so much stuff with Jamil and wholesaling, the YouTube algorithm started to throw a little bit of Pace Morby into my, hey, you should watch this video. So I would watch, 3 Jamil videos, and then I would watch 1 Pace video. And then a couple of days would go by and I would watch 2 Jamil, then 2 Pace. And then it got to the point that I was watching 1 Jamil and 6 Pace. And I was like, man, this Morby guy, like he's like, what he's doing just feels like it would absolutely be perfect for me. Because it's not a one-step thing. It's not a one way to go. There's a dozen different ways, essentially, that you can be successful. Probably more than that. I would say a couple dozen different ways that you can be successful in the creative financing that he teaches. Without experience, you really just have to have a work ethic and have, the ability to grind and keep moving forward when you commit to something. And I've got that in spades. So
it sounds like it. Yep. The commitment it took for you to say to your son, that's it. I'm going to figure it out. I mean, you said it to yourself, maybe not to your son at that point, but still, when you looked at him, that's what you said to yourself. That took a commitment. That, we all know that there are good paying jobs out there that, when it comes to the family life, just aren't worth it.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
yep, totally get it. Totally get it. So that's great. So you ran into the pace
Yep.
out on the YouTubes. That got you into a little deeper, and the next
Yep.
thing you're part of the community.
I am. Yeah. I had to convince my wife. I say to this day, anytime I talk to sellers or any new community members, the hardest negotiation I ever had in real estate to this day was convincing my wife to, back me
Yes.
to join Sub 2, because she's always known me to be in construction. I've always worked 3,000, 3,500 hours a year. Like I've always been just, tirelessly worker. And then all of a sudden I go to her and say, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. And by the way, I'd like to spend thousands of dollars for this YouTube thing that I found that I think
That's right.
probably could work. You know what I mean? That was kind of
Exactly. It's always a great conversation. Yeah.
But
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and leave the part that's doing, consistently, right? And I'm going to go ahead and take a big gamble over here, and I'm going to bring the whole family with. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way,
those conversations are interesting.
It may be several months before I have any more income coming in. So we're going to live off your income while I'm doing this.
Yeah.
That was an interesting conversation.
Yeah. It reminds me way back when I was getting my license in 1990. I mean, that was way back. And so I was telling my friends, I said, I had a managerial job with 401k, retirement, and all that stuff. And I went to school at night. I got my real estate license, and I said, okay, so I'm going to quit my job that, is a salary, guaranteed income, all that stuff. And I'm going to go into real estate, and it's going to be commission only. And they're like looking at me, and I said, and statistically speaking, now this was back in 1990, but still statistically speaking, I'm going to make $12,000 my first year. And it was like, at the time, that's like, 1/3 of what I was making. Right. Yeah. I said, but wait, it gets better. I'm going to have to spend probably 2/3 of that on expenses. And I said, and that's the statistics with the real estate agents that are successful.
Yeah.
And
easy,
yeah,
right?
So I didn't make any money for 8 months.
Yeah.
8 months, right? But like you said, you put the thought in your head that you don't have another option. You said you're going to do this. You committed to doing this, and so now it's just putting in the effort, putting in the time. What's on the other side, and it doesn't always come to us, we'll say, in the time frame that we want. But it usually will happen if we set our minds to it. So with the real estate example, I didn't make any money for 8 months. Okay. My first paycheck, I think, was $237 of the commission after I had to split it and all this other stuff. And yet by the very end of the very first year, I made $12,000.
Nice.
I I was in real estate for 25 years. So, it's just a matter of, if you're in for that battle, right? And I think part of that goes back to the military, where, they give us the tools and the techniques, and they just basically tell us this is our job. And they don't give us the option to quit, right? We just have to do the job. Now, I wasn't in a position, I wasn't in the Army, I was in the Air Force. So I didn't have the hard job of having to, go out and fight battles and things like that. But what I had was responsibility of, I worked on the SR-71 and the U-2 spy planes. So we're sitting there overseas, that plane's getting ready to take off on a spy mission, costs $1,000, or $1 million to fire up the engines, right? And all that stuff. And the last thing you want is they say, well, they can't take off because your equipment's not working right. So we had a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, a little bit.
And just a little bit of pressure. So, but that's the way it works in the military. And when you get out, I think a lot of those things translate over into civilian life. Just that determination that we're going to make it happen. So you got into real estate. You made the determination that you're going to figure it out. Was it easy?
Absolutely not. It was probably the most physically, it's the easiest thing I've ever done. I've always been, labor, physically construction, everything like that. Physically, the easiest thing I've ever done. Mentally, and emotionally, it was the most turbulent time I think I've ever had in my adult life. To essentially give up to do something I've never done before and have no experience in. Not only that, but knowing that I'm going against people when I'm going after properties and I want to buy properties or whatever that have got decades of experience that I'm going against. You know what I mean? It's almost that
Right.
I voluntarily went against something that had the odds stacked against me. Not something that, I had a 50-50 shot at. It's something that it was overwhelmingly stacked against me.
Right.
And at this point, it was no longer just me. I had, I just got married the year before and have kids and everything now that depend on me that, wasn't something that I had when I was in the military. You know what I mean? So,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
so
yes.
it's a whole different level of pressure, whole different,
Right.
weight
Yep.
that I was carrying to do what I set out to do. But
Well,
every
yeah.
step of the way, I knew it was the right decision. It was absolutely the direction I needed to go. So the only direction to go was forward.
Yeah. 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 When I started in real estate, I did not have the family at that time. I don't think I could have done it. I mean, I was ready to sleep on someone's couch if I had to.
Yep.
I had no debt, no bills to pay really, and I lived very, very sparsely because, like I said, I just prepared for it. I didn't have any money going into real estate. It's not one of those situations where I had somebody to pay my bills. And you've got your families looking at you, they're counting on you, and you're making this shift to go from physical labor over into this new arena of battle, like you said, with a bunch of people that already have the experience there, but
Yep.
you had the tenacity to stick with it. So when do you think you started seeing a little bit of success, a little glimmer, and even though you believed it, you started seeing it?
I started in sub 2 in June. I finished the job in April. Took a month off, was looking into all of the options, started speaking with the onboarding agent in May. By the time I got my wife on board and everything like that, we bought our house that we have now that I was worried about buying. We bought it with cash out of pocket in May. And then the first week of June is when I joined Sub 2. So I didn't really see real success in real estate until October.
October,
So,
okay. So
yeah.
at least it was, within the same year, but you started seeing success.
Yes.
Yep. And fast forward now. So I know that you're very successful. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah. Since October, I have 2 partners that I found through Sub 2 in the community. Together, we have acquired 54 doors. Right now, we have under contract an additional 18 doors. We have standing offers that have been accepted. We've sent the contracts out. They haven't been signed yet for, I believe, another 9 doors. And my wife and I are going and buying our first business creatively right now that does, we're with no money out of our pocket. I'm buying this business, no money out of pocket. And it currently is running at 1.2 million a year is what that business is operating at. All because of what I did starting last June.
That's fabulous. Yeah. Now, just to clarify for everyone that doesn't know, what do you mean when you say doors?
Doors. So sometimes I buy single family houses. Sometimes I buy apartment complexes. I have, we count doors. We don't count properties because I'm collecting rent from every individual door. So to figure out what our total success rate is, you have to figure out where you're getting the money from. You know what I mean? We're getting individual money from individual doors. So we have a 6-unit apartment complex. We have several duplexes.
Right.
I bought a mixed use building that has 4 commercial fronts that we rent downstairs, but 10 apartments upstairs. So
that's 10 doors by itself, that one property.
Yep.
Yeah. You buy a single family house, it's just one door.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, yep. Just want to clarify. I don't want people to think that you can go down to Home Depot and buy doors.
Well, I do when I buy some of the replicas.
Yeah, that's true. We bought a lot of doors, but not that kind.
We try not to count those.
That's right. That's right. So now you're very successful. that's fabulous. I am happy that your life has taken a turn. You've replaced that income that you had, but more importantly, now you get to spend the time with your family.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think you also said you were taking care of, was it parents?
My in-laws, my father-in-law.
In-laws.
Yeah.
That's
My,
right.
my father-in-law had some health issues. He had a brain aneurysm and ended into a stroke. And then he had a bout with cancer after that because of the procedures that he had to go through to
Yeah.
kind of help him with everything. So yeah, it's been a continuing work to kind of
Yeah.
be there for them as well.
Yep, I totally get it. And I too, we're here, my wife and I are here in Tennessee the last 2 years, because of my in-laws, kind of the exact same situation. I think that's one of the things that brought us together. We could both, you know, understand that it's a blessing to be able to be there for them. And at the same time, it does, you make changes in your life.
Yep.
When we moved here, I knew nothing about Tennessee. Didn't have any connections in Tennessee. Wasn't even thinking about real estate again because I don't know anything on. I don't. I came when you needed to know the area that you're investing in. Nowadays, you can do a lot of things virtual because of the internet and things like that. But I just needed to be comfortable with where I was investing, and I met someone here that was an investor and we got to talking. That's kind of what got me thinking about real estate again. And very similar to you, about I think it was probably 6 months ago, I started looking online just to see what was going on in the internet world. And for some reason, YouTube kept showing me more and more Pace Morley videos. And when I ended up looking at those, it's like in the beginning, I was extracting all of the information that he was giving. I thought, he gives out this information. I wasn't looking for, a coach or a mentor, anything like that, because it's not that I know everything, because I certainly don't. But I felt like, knowing more would not make me earn more.
Yeah.
And I'm always very, I try to take one step at a time and focus on where I'm at, where I need to go next. I have an idea where I'm going to go in the end, but I don't worry about, well, I need to get more and more and more education. It's like, no, do I have enough education to take that step? Then that's what I'm going to do. So I got a lot of information from Pace that, I felt like I didn't need to pay him for that. But when I looked at the community and I said, what I am missing in my life is I don't have a sphere of influence here that are people in real estate. I mean, when I was doing real estate in Chico, California, it's like, I had friends in the title company. I had appraiser friends. I had, banking friends. I mean, you don't even think about it, but those were my friends. That was my sphere of influence. So anything I needed, it's like, we all helped each other do all that. That was a community that I had built over decades of living there without even consciously thinking about it. So when I really thought about it, and that was the thing I had to convince my wife, you're taking a mentor program or a coaching. I said, no, I am joining a community.
Yeah.
I'm making new friends.
Yeah. 100%.
She's like, yeah, I'm making new friends. And that was what interested for me. So I joined in June of this year. So it'll be interesting to see where I'm at 1 year down this journey.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. It's been about 8 weeks for me now. So we've I put 3 of them into escrow and closed those in the first month. We've got more in escrow right now, just single family homes. I've been focused on calling foreclosures and helping veterans.
Nice.
And then we're turning some of those houses. I'm doing buy and hold, and we're turning those houses into midterm rentals, or we're renting them out by the room. So I guess you could consider each room that we rent by the door,
Yeah.
but we're renting those out to veterans. So, the goal is we can help veterans that are in foreclosure, as I did with some of these properties. They were getting ready to be foreclosed on, lose their VA loan, then they'd lose their entitlement, the whole thing. So we were able to step in, help them. Ended up, some people were able to help keep their house, and some of them we end up buying their house. It just depends on the situation and what's going on in their life. But when we do buy them, then like I say, we turn around, we furnish them, and we're looking to put veterans in there. And so it's kind of a win-win. And then, of course, as I talked about earlier, the focus is some of these veterans, they just need a career change. Some of them don't have a career, to be frank, and they just need something. And the one thing when I jumped in this community is it gave me that passion again, because I've spent a couple of years here, with the in-laws helping, and it's just like you get caught in that day-to-day grind, and I didn't have the passion anymore. There's things that I did out online and such, and I could do some consulting and make some money online. So it wasn't that; it was just the passion. I didn't have any passion for it. And now that I've joined Sub2 and I started meeting people again and talking to them, and now I'm helping veterans. That's my passion. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
I think I've reached out. There's a local organization, nonprofit, that's helping heroes in my local community that are basically helping. We live more of a remote area. Veterans are not really close to a real good VA hospital, so they basically have bought old hotels and things like that, and had housing for veterans that need assistance, that are having problems with like drug dependencies and things like that, and helping them get squared away, and then giving them transportation to get to VA hospitals. Once they're getting through these programs, they need to have a place for them to be able to go to after that. And I've been in contacts with them as far as the properties I have. That some of these houses that I'm buying, I'll do wrap properties for the veterans once they get stable, and they need to have a place to go after that. They need to have a purpose, like you said. They need to have a place to go. They need to have a job.
Yep.
They need to have some sort of structure to keep them moving in that forward direction. And I'm doing that very same thing with the properties that I'm picking up locally. I'm speaking with them, 3 veterans right now that are getting through the program and are looking to take that next step. And I'm hoping to be able to wrap a couple properties to them, to where it gives them that foundation for them to build off of.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So just so that we can clarify for people that are listening, when you say you're doing a wrap for them, what's the benefit to them on buying a property that you've done a wrap?
So the benefit for them is they don't have to qualify with a bank. They don't have to
They
have
don't have to go to the loan, and
they don't have to get a loan.
pull
They
the
don't
credit, fill out all that application stuff, you submit it.
They don't have to have any background checks, because a lot of the problems is, especially these veterans, that they've had a checkered past as far as criminal history or something like that. None of that applies. They're coming to me, and also banks are kind of handcuffed where they can only do a 30-year amortization. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm going to do 50 or 60 years to make sure that the price of the payment is down to what they can afford. I'm not going to be making tons of money off of the properties that I'm working with this organization with. I'm purely putting these properties aside to make sure that it's a situation that promotes success for these veterans to come out and be able to take the next step. They don't have to worry about people looking at their credit history, their criminal history, any of that stuff. You know what I mean? You're coming out of the program because you've done the work that it needs to be done in order to get to this point. You need help with employment. I hire people to join my maintenance crews, and I hire people to go and do, odd jobs for me every day. We can help you with that until you find something to get, that's more rock solid. And then we'll give you a place, you know what I mean? And it may even be 2 veterans that are sharing the place, so they can have an accountability partner or whatever like that. You know what I mean?
Depending on the circumstance.
Depending on the circumstance.
Yeah.
In order to get that off the ground. And I'm really, really kind of a passion project for me to get this going with this organization. I think it's going to be, leaps and bounds to help these vets coming out and being able to transition.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. So I did want to shout out to, now what area are you in? So if there's any veterans in that area that need to reach out to you.
Wheeling, West Virginia.
Wheeling, West Virginia. Okay.
Yeah. It's in the Northern Panhandle.
Okay. Well, as you know, I'm in Eastern Tennessee here. And so, what we'll have to do is get together later and then compare, the resources that we've come across, because I find that there's so many different programs out there, and there's a lot of people that are willing to help. It's hard to find access to everything. It's like, there's little groups, and then you talk to this person and they tell you, oh, you should talk to this person. And, that's part of the community aspect that I love of this. But when it comes to the government, it's not always, cut and dry to find the right people. Uh, we deal with people and they're like, yeah, this is great. Oh, I can help you. Now we're in the Nashville area. It's like, okay, but we have houses over, Clarksville, which is, military base. It's close to Nashville, but it's not directly in their little sphere of influence, for the people that we're talking to in the VA. So you always have to find the right ones. And over on Knoxville. So yeah, I totally understand. And the same thing, we're helping. Like I have one of the veterans that was a homeowner, and now he's one of the managers for a property. So yeah, I love finding people that, whatever they can do. If some of them, they know how to, put on the bag, swing a hammer, right? And so I definitely have lots of uses for, that type of person. Other people are more creative. We have some people that, they're actually very, very good with graphics, online graphics. And so we can have them do that. But yeah, I think that that's what we have to do is kind of build the outside the military experience, because we had that community when we were in the military. But when you go out of the military, we're used to having that environment, and we're used to being the one that, we're just told, get the job done. So a lot of times, even though you have that community while you're in the service, you're still, it's kind of up to you to get the job done. And you get out into the civilian world and it's up to you to get the job done, but then you kind of fall and you don't have that community to pick you back up.
Yep.
That's what I found. So yeah, well, that's fabulous. Okay. So what's the name of that group that you're working with there?
Helping Heroes.
Helping Heroes. Okay. Well, that's a great sounding name. We'll have to see. Are they nationwide, do you know, or are they just a group in that area?
It's just a regional group that kind of filled in where there wasn't anything before, and they've grown organically from my understanding to 2 or 3 people to where they're like I said, they're buying hotels out and renovating them in order to build these centers to help vets. So I mean, they're doing a really amazing job of what they're doing. So I'm really super stoked to help them out and be a part of that.
Yeah, that's really cool. And there's different little organizations like that. It seems like everywhere, and that's where we're just going to have to build a database of those type of things so that we can link them all together, so that no matter if somebody's in Arizona, California, wherever they're at, we'll have the right resources for them. So I'm looking forward to building that for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then a lot of times we have individuals that feel like they would like to help, and they want, they're willing to contribute with funds because they don't have any of their time to give. So what I say on something like that is, they can always reach out and they can directly invest with some of the properties that we're buying. So we can put a second mortgage on there. They essentially become what we call PMLs, or private money lenders. So we take their money and utilize it for some of the down payment costs, things like that. They end up getting a mortgage that's secured by a deed of trust through a title company, all that type of thing. So we always like to remind people, don't ever send your money to any individual. If you are going to invest in real estate, make sure that you're sending it to a title company. Always a title company. Make sure you have a deed of trust that's recorded against the property. Make sure you have title insurance. Everything should be above board. And if anybody ever tells you, well, just send it to me, run the other way. There's a lot of great organizations out there, but unfortunately there's also a lot of people that will just take advantage of, well, I've got a cause, why don't you just give me the money?
Making sure you're vetting the title company as well to make sure that it's a legitimate title company. There's tons of scams and stuff out there where people say, oh yeah, this title company is the one we always use, and it's really just a shell company that they use to take people's money and run. So having communication with the title company and everything before you send money is very important too.
Yeah, I have heard of scams where people will say, send it to my title company, and they'll give you a wire information, and it's not the title company. So you should always call the title company to get the wire information directly from them. That's another thing. But I hadn't even heard of, bogus title companies. Wow. Well, the scammers will always figure out a way, unfortunately.
They're they're smart at stealing money. So
Yeah, if they put that much effort into helping people, it'd be a different world that we live in. But
1,000,000%.
that's where we're at. Yeah. All right. So, if people need to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that? Instagram, email, Facebook, carrier pigeon. What's what's working for you nowadays?
Predominantly Facebook and email.
Okay.
And then my phone rings 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
I still kind of have that chip on my shoulder about catching up to people that have far more experience than I do. So I'm still currently 7 days a week from 6 a.m. till midnight. That's my hours. I'm always working, always pressing. I've been told that I've been having, great success in the last year, but I don't feel like I've quite made it there yet. I'm still want to get my goal for the year is 100 doors this year.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm sitting at 54, 55. So I'm not going to be happy until I get to 100. So
you set a lofty goal, and it's not always about just the experience. I spent 25 years in real estate, where my first hat I would put on was as a realtor, and then occasionally I would pick up an investment property if I tripped over it. So looking back, of course, I could say, well, I had 25 years experience in real estate and investing, but really I did not. I had very little experience in actual investing. And so what you've accomplished in the last year in simply investing is much more than I was able to do over the course of 25 years. So don't just discount, the experience that you have. Look at the hard work that you've put in, the tenacity that you have, and the risk that your family and you took to get you where you're at. And most importantly, look at the people's lives that you're helping. All these veterans and other people. We like to say, if you're not a veteran, we'll still help you. It's not that. We're just trying to put a spotlight on that situation. But all those houses that you have helped people, many times they're distressed sellers. And then people say, well, what do you mean by distressed seller? Well, okay, it could be somebody that, obviously if they're in foreclosure, they can't make their payment. It could be somebody who they don't have any money problems. They can make the payment, but maybe they have to move and they don't want to be a remote landlord. You say, well, why don't they just sell their house on the market? Well, sometimes they can't, right? The market has shifted.
I just did one of those last month. Active duty. They bought the house last January, and he got orders to go across the country and needed to sell the house, but there was no equity in it, and the market was 10, 15%. So the first year, it's essentially all interest that you're paying. So he didn't pay anything down on the principal of the property. And when it hit the market, it's the comps for the last 3 months are coming in $15,000 less than what he owed on the house. So I stepped in, and within 12 days we closed so he could do his transfer, and we took the property over subject to and ended up assigning it to somebody that's going to have it as a long-term rental. So
perfect. And what that means to him is, how much cash did he have to give you to make this deal happen?
None.
He did not have to come to the table with any cash. Whereas during a real estate transaction where, if he had the equity, right, he probably would have ended up paying, 10% of the purchase price towards closing costs and everything else. So what was the price on this house?
$102,000.
102,000. Okay. So it wasn't an exorbitant house, but still, even if he had to come to the table with $10,000-$15,000, not everybody can reach into their pocket after they just bought a house with zero down and then suddenly come up with $10,000-$15,000. So you were able to help them.
Yeah. They would have had to sold the house for around 125 for him to break even by the time it was all said and done.
Yeah, and the truth is, if the market isn't there for the house, it doesn't matter your story or why you need to sell it. It's just not going to sell.
Yep.
When I was doing real estate back in the 90s, we had people that would buy a house. 3 years later, we go to put it on the market for them, And it's like, okay, and you're going to have to bring in to close, $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 to close. And it was expected.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of options back then, but now there are options. And the same as the one that we recently helped in Clarksville, kind of the same thing. Had his house on the market, ended up in foreclosure. Nobody would buy the house. I mean, it was a nice house. It was remodeled and everything else, but it just wasn't worth what it was on the market for. And he just couldn't lower it because he didn't have the money to begin with. And then when you throw in the arrears on what he owed, we ended up paying full retail for that house. But we were willing to do that for multiple reasons. One, obviously, we helped him. He was able to. It didn't cost him a cent, and he had no money. Secondly, we ended up finding him a place to live, and now he is managing some units. So we were able to help his situation and stabilize it. At the same time, we were able to take over the payments on his house, and he had a very low interest rate, which made it so that if we had to buy that with cash or we had to buy it with a new loan, the numbers wouldn't have worked. But thanks to that low interest rate, the everything did work. So yep,
we got a 2.25% rate on that house. So.
2.25.
Yeah.
I honestly don't believe we're going to ever see 2.25 again in our lifetime.
I don't either.
I really don't.
I've got a couple that are 2.875 that we have sent offers out on and are waiting for them to sign that we're going to be picking up here shortly. That it's super exciting to see that. Because it just allows you to have a lot more flexibility on the other side of it when you go to either have it as a rental or have it as a resale for a wrap, which some people watching this may not know what a wrap is when you buy a property on creative terms and you resell the property on creative terms. You're wrapping that property to a new buyer. Wraps are a very powerful tool to be able to get unqualified people as far as bank standards to come in and be able to have ownership when they wouldn't have to before. And having those lower interest rates allows us to have that flexibility to make sure the new buyers coming in, when they're buying them from us and we're the bank at that point, it allows us to have a lot more flexibility to be able to make sure that they can get into it and have their own ownership at that point.
It sure does. Yep. Well, I know one of the things that I looked at when I originally was looking at some of Pace's videos, and I'm like, sub 2, is that even legal?
Yeah.
And you get that reaction a lot. Everything that we're doing is legal. And I like to say that people will say, well, is it legal? And then people would tell me, well, yeah, because we've done it here and we've done it there. And I'd say, well, that doesn't make it legal.
Yeah.
Okay. People rob banks and you could point to it and that doesn't make it legal. Right. So what did it for me was sitting down and looking at the paperwork. And it's like when we close escrow on the title company generates the HUD-1, which is a federal document. It has federal guidelines in it and rules in it. And so I would tell somebody, I'd say, well, is anything on a HUD-1 illegal? They say, well, what do you mean? I say, well, what if there was a line, say, on the HUD-1 that specifically said subject to? Would that make it legal? And they'd say, well, yeah, but that doesn't work. Well, then I'd pull out a HUD-1 and I'd show them. It says right there, existing liens subject to. It's right on a HUD. Yep. So the fact is, it's not something new. It's been around forever. Yep. It's in the real estate, laws that the federal government understands that sometimes things are going to be transferred. Title is going to be transferred, and the existing liens are subject to that transfer. So the difference subject to simply means is the deed being transferred subject to the existing liens or paying off the existing lien? Really, that's the only two questions, and that's the only difference. So yeah, that's what did it for me. That's why I'd say Pace gave me all that information before I joined, and my research on the internet. I'm like, well, I'm going to verify this, and I did. So yep, very happy to be here. So.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've taken a lot of your time, and it sounds like there's construction going on in your background. I'm not sure if you're building a new house or you're building another door there or what's going on, but
I'm extending the new house that I bought actually, and the the crews couldn't work a couple days for rain earlier this week, so they're trying to get it in this weekend. Unfortunately, I apologize for that, but
That's okay. You got to get it done when you get it done. So
Yeah.
no worries. So to wrap it up, let me ask you. So what would you say to anyone who's a veteran that's thinking about getting into real estate?
absolutely do it. There's no reason why you can't. Find somebody to partner with. That is the quickest way that you can do it, is to team up with other veterans that are already in that space. Have communications, put yourself out there. There hasn't been a single thing that I've done in the last year. I've gone to different meetups, real estate meetups, chamber of commerce events that are, that are free to go to, that I have not gotten value out of and learned from it, and gotten connections from people that want me to help them and them to help me further my real estate. People want to work with other people in real estate. That's the entire industry is built off of that. Agents, lenders, bankers, insurance agents, everybody is working together to move forward. That's what the entire industry is based off of. So absolutely, if you want to get into the real estate space, start going to those types of events, getting into those conversations and meeting those types of people. The people that you surround yourself with are the people that's going to be there and move you forward. So absolutely, that would be my advice.
Yeah, I tell people, if they're interested in getting into real estate, just understand that it's a people business. It's not about real estate. It's not about trying to learn the technology or anything else. It's a people business. Do you like talking to people? Well, yeah, okay, I can talk to people. Great, then you could do well in real estate. You just have to put the same mindset that you had when you started this. It's like, make up your mind that this is what you're going to do, and then start talking to people. Speaking of talking to people, it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yes.
We're going to wrap this up for this for us Saturday morning. We'll crank up a little music and say goodbye.
Appreciate the time, Sean.
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.